Hello everyone, we are the Group 10 of Computação em Nuvem and I will start the presentation about the papers we choose. Regarding the papers, we choose the multi-cloud team and try to choose papers that also have something about security. So we ended up choosing these three that fit those requirements. I'm going to present the first one, a new approach in multi-cloud environment to improve data security. As we know, cloud computing is a growing technology with an expanding range of use cases. One such is to store and provide wide access to different types of data. Cloud storage solutions offer a number of great advantages like low storage costs, data reliability, and others. Despite these, there are a number of factors that deter users from opting to use such services, like data security, privacy, over-reliance on internet access, and limited control. Users don't want these problems in their services. So one possible solution is to use multi-cloud instead of storing the data in one single cloud provider. The paper proposes a technique for multi-cloud data storage, named Improved Hybrid Encryption, where the idea is to split the information between the different cloud environments. This technique uses a combination of AES, Blowfish, and the RC6 encryption algorithms. The data is split in multiple pieces based on the multi-cloud resources that are available, and then the algorithms are applied to different clouds. In this image, we can see how the process of storing data works. Initially, the users have to authenticate themselves and provide a one-time password to ensure multi-factor authentication. Then, the users choose the data to upload, and the system splits the data according to the resources available for each of the storage servers. The different parts of splitted data are numbered, and then the system uses the module operation by 3 on the numbered data. If the result is 0, the data is encrypted with AES. If it's 1, the data is encrypted with Blowfish, and if it's 2, it's encrypted with RC6. Finally, the information is stored in a directory in each of the cloud servers. To decrypt the information, we need to reverse the process and join the information sequentially, using the parts number. So, when analyzing the performance of the proposed work with another cryptographic algorithm, in this case DES, we realize that this idea presents better results both in terms of data encryption and throughput, like we can see in this image. So we can conclude that the paper presents a good and relevant idea for separating user information into multiple clouds to improve the data security.
Now, I'm going to present the paper towards intrusion-resilient security monitoring in multi-cloud infrastructures. Computer-based systems experience malicious attacks regularly, and multi-cloud infrastructures are no exception. The growing sophistication of the attacks, together with the infeasibility of preventing them, make the capability to subsist such attacks that compromise fully or partially a system a serious concern for the defending security teams. Multi-cloud architectures are a promising step towards more resilient cloud-based systems. If a malicious actor manages to compromise a multi-cloud system, typically the intrusion only affects a single cloud provider. In this system, the service can be partitioned over multiple clouds to enhance security and use intrusion-tolerant replication mechanisms to protect itself and help cope against possible attacks. This paper assumes a system model which has multiple independent public cloud providers and that each provider is responsible for its cloud management platform. The assumed system is a cross-cloud deployment of a service that can already use partitioning and intrusion-tolerant replication to mitigate attacks on a single cloud infrastructure. This paper wants to complement the aforementioned service with an intrusion detection and analysis service, IDA, while considering the need to be resource efficient and resilient against attacks on the IDA components on a single cloud. The proposed solution to implement the IDA had in consideration this list of attack vectors during the conception of the system components and the mechanisms used to defend against specific attacks. The figure represents the architecture of the proposed system. Each cloud has a generic cross-cloud service instance, which are the green boxes, and which are virtual machines and an intrusion detection and analysis service, which are the orange boxes, and which is outside the service instance virtual machine but communicates with it. It's important to note that every cloud is interconnected, not only by the service instance but also by the IDA instance. Now I'm going to explain the solution in a bit more detail. First, there's the service instance, which is the part of a replicated or partitioned cross-cloud service and runs autonomously within a virtual machine. It's not aware that it's being monitored and has a public interface, which makes it the single component that is directly exposed to external attackers. Next, there's the monitor service, which is the component responsible for extracting monitoring data from the SCI, runs in a separate virtual machine than the service instance, and is independent from the monitor services of other clouds. The prototype implementation can employ virtual machine introspection and can examine the guest OS and guest applications periodically for intrusions. Finally, it can use VMI-based execution flow tracing mechanisms to detect abnormal behavior. This service is protected against compromise of the IDA and against both internal or external malicious actors that compromise the cloud infrastructure, gaining the capability to attack locally both services. For attacks on the IDA, hardening the MS component by making it minimalistic, performing only simple processing of the monitoring data, authenticating the monitoring data with an internal key before sending it to the log services does the job. For attacks on the cloud infrastructure, the author considered building a trusted virtual machine monitor based on trusted computing technology or using hardware-assisted isolation. Next, there's the logging service, which is high throughput, strongly consistent, persistent global logging service, which the data is replicated across all clouds. It's the only component of the IDA that interacts with the other cloud's instance directly. It facilitates the analysis engine task by giving it the view of all the data, which makes its analysis deterministic. Like the monitor service, the logging service is hardened by only allowing it to do simple analysis tasks on the data. The integrity and availability is protected using intrusion-tolerant replication across the multiple clouds using the BFT Smart library. Finally, the interface of the logging service is limited to append and retrieval operations. Finally, we have the analysis engine. This is the most complex part of the architecture because it uses a set of well-known complex approaches using the previously collected data to detect intrusion and forensic data about detected incidents. This component needs to be resource efficient, and common mode attacks should only affect a small subset of nodes. The analysis engine sends its output to the LS, although the author doesn't explain exactly how. The analysis engine is designed as a framework that can use several detection and analysis plugins. In conclusion, the obtained solution used several existing approaches to enhance the resilience of the service against malicious attacks and gave valuable insight into the enhancements of security in this type of systems, and hopes to give insight into the performance and resource cost compared to other similar systems in future work, obviously. For future work, it plans to analyze the security properties applied in the performance aspects of such architecture in a controlled lab environment and in public clouds.
Let's move on to the last paper. The title of the paper is Reconciling Security and Functional Requirements in Multi-Tenant Clouds. The objective is to present conflicts between security needs and functional requirements, as well as finding solutions to these problems. The first problem is cost efficiency versus data privacy. Cloud service providers achieve cost efficiency using multi-tenant solutions and distributed algorithms over cheap hardware, such as data compression and duplication. Multi-tenant solutions means that they share the resources between the customers. Data compression simply means they compress the data to less space, and data duplication means that they only store one copy of each file, no matter how many users have that same file. To implement duplication, providers retain access to customer data, which is a concern that many customers have. They want to be the only ones to be able to read the files, so they are worried about this. State-of-the-art solutions at the time of the release of the paper really only were able to provide a compromise between the two requirements and couldn't provide both of them. The first solution, conversion encryption, is the most simple. It consists in encrypting the message with a key that is derived from the data using a hash function. The message is encrypted and then sent to the provider. This is not good enough. It is proven that it is vulnerable to dictionary attacks as well as brute force ones. The next type of solutions are popularity-based ones. The main idea is that popular data is not sensitive, so it can be encrypted using conversion encryption. Less popular data is encrypted with user-generated keys. The main problem is that we have to rely on a third party to keep track of data popularity between users. Example is Perfect Dedupe as an index service to keep track of the popularity. The client first asks the service to the popularity of the message it had, and then sends the properly encrypted data to the provider. The paper presents two more types of solutions to this problem. The first one is to rely on the server, third party, for key generation. This server would keep the keys needed for the encryption and provide the same key to upload the same message, whether no matter the customer that is uploading it. It enables the client to safely encrypt their data and send it to the provider. The provider does not have access to the data, but can use the duplication at the same time. Or the ideal one would be to use collaboration between users to achieve the same result. We will see in the review of the solutions why this is really difficult to implement, but would be the ideal solution. The paper represents the comparison between the four different types of solutions in this table. We can see that the conversion encryption is not good enough. It's not usable for cloud providers because it simply does not provide any security requirements that we were looking for. Popularity-based solutions and server-assisted solutions are more or less the same. They still rely on third parties but achieve the security duplication. And solutions based on user collaborations would be ideal, but they require online users. The second problem is multi-tenancy versus resource isolation. On the one hand, cloud providers want their resources to be used to the full extent of their capabilities, as well as as providing isolation to its tenant information and prevent unauthorized parties from accessing data from other customers. This sharing of resources needs to be mediated by a privileged entity. This entity is the first mounter. The code on this first mounter could cause many vulnerabilities, which may produce some security threats based on those vulnerabilities. The findings are thus. Two problems were identified. Possibly side channels could be established between two tenants due to some vulnerability in the code, and that is dangerous because they would be able to access unauthorized data, as well as privilege escalation, where the components of the system would grow in size in such a manner they could increase their privilege in a not desirable way. we have listed 5 possible mitigations or ways to mitigate the two problems, and the paper describes which one of them would work better. Obviously, low sharing degree would combat both, but we wouldn't be sharing the resources, so it's not really a good point to do so. Encryption obviously would make the data accessed by other clients to not be usable because they don't have the key to decrypt it. Frequent migration would be to migrate the resources being used frequently. So if a side channel is established, they would change the location of the resources, so data would not be accessible anymore because it changed the place where it was. The last problem we want to solve is isolating the customer data and still providing data ownership. We want to isolate the customer's data and implement functionality such as shared file ownership. We would want to implement a solution that implements this in a distributed manner with the voting systems between the owners. Cloud platforms allow access to data using access control lists, and Commune is the solution to the problem, uses tokens over these ACLs to solve the problem. We have here the comparison between existing solutions and Commune. Commune provides confidentiality, revocation, collision resistance, and fairness. The problem is the efficiency is way below the standard. So that still needs to improve before we switch over to a solution like Commune that establishes the balance between requirements. The conclusions of the paper are that cloud storage platforms are still too weak at isolating tenants and containing attacks. The threat of vulnerabilities and the inability to provide data privacy is the main reason many customers still choose to host their own data.